Welcome to the Firepreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff McDowell Jr.
And I'm Bennett Grove.
Between us, we have 20 years of firefighting experience.
And over 15 years of experience building, growing, and leading small businesses.
Each episode, we get after it by discussing leadership, life, and development.
We'll also unpack the wins and losses that we've experienced along the way.
You ready, big dog?
I'm ready, my man.
Let's get it.
Welcome to another episode of the Firepreneurs Podcast. Today, I am joined by my friend and fellow business owner, Josh Judge with Judge Services out of Carbondale. Josh started his business in 2012, 13, Josh?
Yeah, 2013.
2013. He does exterior cleaning. He's the exterior cleaning specialist in Carbondale and the surrounding areas. Josh currently offers pressure washing, window cleaning, soft washing, roof washing, and you do Christmas lights as well, and you've been doing that for the last 3 years, right?
Correct.
So I wanted to bring Josh on because he's a good buddy of mine, and I go visit him in Carbondale. He comes up here to Pittsboro. It's nice just to have a friend in business that you can kind of mastermind with and just bounce ideas off of. So I reached out to Josh for this episode to see if he would just be kind of willing to come on the podcast and just do one of those mini mastermind sessions with us here in the Firepreneurs audience, so people can hear what a firepreneur, in my instance, or just an entrepreneur is going through as they try to grow their business. And then one of the inspirations for this also is that I have a number of coaching clients that are exterior cleaning companies that are, south of 100K in sales or south of 200K in sales. And so they have a lot of questions and, what should I do in this scenario? And so we're going to turn some of those questions over to Josh to hopefully help out some of the coaching clients and just kind of let them know there's somebody else that's gone through the fire, so to speak. And that's kind of going to be the theme of this episode. So Josh, welcome to the podcast, my man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much. And don't be modest, Ben. If you know that if it weren't for you for all these years, I wouldn't be here. So I appreciate you very, very much.
See, now Josh is full of it. And the episode just started, so now nobody believes you on anything else you say. So, my man, why don't we just start with what are you guys doing today? Were they out on how many trucks you got out today? How many trucks do you have? What kind of jobs you got on the books today?
Sure, we've got 3 flatbed trucks that are running pretty much every day of the week. Today we've got 2 main trucks out, and then one of them will go out this afternoon, so about 2.5. We're just staying super busy with exterior cleaning, and been getting into some more commercial stuff lately. But this year is whenever we really went away from the trailer modes of what we've been in the past as far as our rigs, and went to the flatbed setups, and it's been pretty awesome. Definitely the way to go. 3
flatbeds or 4?
4, but one is the 60 Ford, and it just loves being at the mechanic. So I just write it off. It's just always being fit.
For those listening, Josh and I go back and forth on this. He has at one point wanted to bury it in the ground out of frustration, and I told him to not dig that hole because it's always nice to have a backup. It's just that his backup has been at the mechanic a lot lately. So. You got the 4 trucks though, which is definitely like from a mental capacity standpoint, that's probably helpful to know that you have the 4 because it allows you to maybe push the schedule when you're trying to book 3 trucks full, right?
Sure. Yeah. It definitely having the backup has been something we haven't had in the past. It's always been stressful. We're always just trying to, run everything max. But this year, definitely having the backups have been super handy because we never have downtime. Doesn't matter if a truck or when it goes out, we've got that backup. We can swing in and keep the workflow going. So,
what did I miss in the beginning on services that you guys offer? You want to fill in some holes for me?
You nailed it. I mean, all exterior cleaning, roofs, houses, pretty much anything on the outside of people's homes. You mentioned window cleaning, which is ironic because we are just now starting to get back into that exterior window cleaning mode. We've got some window water-fed pole units that are going to be coming in this week. So we're going to go down that avenue. I say again, because we kind of took the plunge a few years ago and kind of back away from it, but it's time. We're kind of starting to experience a little bit of what I feel like is maxing out our potential maybe for residential in the area. So I feel like it's time to start adding on these other services to further maximize the potential around here. So here we go for window cleaning.
So context, tell us in the audience a little bit about the size of your city, your area, for people who aren't familiar with Carbondale, Illinois, kind of it's a college town. What's the population?
Yeah.
People hear Illinois, they might think Chicago and they're like, oh, well, yeah, but he's got this big city to contend with. Well, they don't realize how far away Carbondale is from Chicago.
Yeah, we're about 5.5, 6 hours south of Chicago. So very southern Illinois. Carbondale, we do have Southern Illinois University. So it's a college town. I think population Carbondale's right around 25,000 or so. And then the surrounding satellite town, we've got a few similar in size to Carbondale. I think with our whole service area, we're right at about maybe 400,000 people within our total service area. So not a huge population, but we've been able to make it work. So, yeah.
And I always like to draw attention to that because I have people that tell me like, yeah, well, my service area is not that big. And, so this is probably about my capacity. And I always challenge there because I can't help myself. But just to be a little blunt and honest in those moments, but especially knowing you as long as I have, and I hear people tell me that, and they live in an area where the population in the surrounding area is like 500,000 to 1 million people, and I'm like, and they're telling me that, yeah, my service area is just not big enough. I'm only able to get one truck running, and I'm like, okay, hold on a second, let me tell you a story. And I always tell them about Josh Judge, who's in Carbondale. And is running 3 trucks pretty steady, 2 to 3 trucks pretty steady every week during the season. And it's just impressive that you're able to, out of that market, get scrappy and draw up enough business. And I think that speaks to your mindset of being like, I'm not going to have a scarcity mindset just because I'm in a population that's not that big. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to every year exhaust and grow and try to find out what that population is. Because 400,000, I mean, how many houses is that? That's your market, right? So it's not so much that you can't get in front of more people. It's just, how do you get in front of more people? So for you to be running, 2 to 3 trucks pretty steady on the exterior cleaning side, people can do the math on that. That's pretty impressive. And I think in a market that size, it's even more impressive. So kudos to you, my man, as I always say. And for anybody listening out there who has a scarcity mindset, I hope you were listening to that. So now we've given some context about how big Carbondale is. Why don't you talk to us about what made you make the pivot to add on Christmas lights, when you did that, how it went year one, how it's going today. Walk us through Christmas lights a little bit.
Sure. So I think that first season would have been 2018. And really the whole driver for that was that I knew I needed to be able to keep good people, good employees around year round. And our exterior cleaning season really takes a dive towards the middle of November. It starts to get really cold. So adding on Christmas lights was a no-brainer. Being able to keep my guys busy all the way through the winter, and with the takedowns, because it is a full service that we offer. We do the light takedowns in January, so that again helps fill the calendar and giving my guys something to do. So that's the whole reason I started it, but it's really kind of taken off and formed a life of its own, the Christmas lights. So this would be our 3rd season this last year, and we ended up doing about 125 installs altogether. So it's really exploded. We're fortunate to be one of the only businesses in the area that offers the service. So it's still kind of really unique. We've had to educate the public about the service quite a bit because no one really knows about it. You see it a lot more in bigger cities, but so yeah, this year we're going to expand and run 2 separate crews for Christmas lights. So I'm in the process of shopping for a van, but as you know, and we discussed earlier, finding vehicles right now is really tough. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I'm excited for the opportunity that it's going to present this year. Looking forward to growing it again.
Okay, my man. So now we're going to roll back time a little bit.
All right.
One of the things I wanted to get into was conquering some of the self-limiting beliefs. And I think some of the listeners who, maybe even some of the ones that I coach, they're in this mode where they're trying to get to the point where they're hiring their first full-time employee, or maybe they've got one helper and they're thinking about a second one, but they know that getting the second one means that they're going to then be able to get off the truck. And that might be some anxiety about what should I do now that I know these two people are out here. They're used to doing all the work themselves. So I remember when you were in this mode, and walk us back to that time. What was that like for you? Because you started out doing everything yourself. You had a helper, started out as a part-time helper. You know, did you have some of those same fears and concerns about hiring your first full-time employee, like how you were going to pay for them, can you walk us through what maybe that was like for you?
Oh yeah, all kinds of anxiety about, are you going to be able to keep them busy? Like you want to offer somebody, if you want to get a good employee, you want to be able to offer them full time. So you have anxiety about, well, if I bring this person on, am I going to be able to fulfill my promise of keeping them busy? And then there is the anxiety that I think a lot of new business owners in the trades have, that most of us are perfectionists about what we do and perform. And so we're super passionate about getting everything right, having every single detail done to perfection. And we have the self-limiting belief that all of our customers want us in the field. They want us doing the work. And so it was really hard to get to a point of relinquishing control and trusting someone to go out and do it without your constant supervision. But looking back, I should have done it a lot sooner. I think that's what most people would agree, that actually make it past that point, they wish they would have done it a lot sooner. It was a transformative point in the business. I remember the truck rolling away from the house with the guys for the first time. And, I felt so guilty for not going out in the field and being there doing the work that day, even though I had other stuff to do. I had quotes and other things that were going to grow the business, but had that extreme guilt of not being in the field and doing that hard labor work. But you got to do it. You got to do it if you're going to grow. And the reality of it is, and I think you would agree, that while most trades business owners want everything to be done to perfection, and they want that 100% detail, it's not really a requirement. You don't really have to do everything absolutely perfect on every single job. You can have mistakes. As long as you as a company run at those mistakes head on and make it right with the customer, it's okay to mess up. That's one of the biggest mental hurdles, the self-limiting belief that I had, was letting things go, letting things not be perfect. And without that, I wouldn't have been able to grow. So
I always think it's somewhat amusing, but it's because I picture this scenario when I hear people tell me that, I'm afraid if I don't go off the truck and do something else, and they're not going to do the job as well as I can, and this is something, it's been on Josh Latimer's podcast, which is one that a lot of exterior cleaners listen to. You hear it all the time, and you would think by now that it wouldn't be a problem, an obstacle to overcome anymore, but it's always going to be for those people who are coming in new to the industry. It's just going to be a revolving wheel of time, so to speak. And there's going to be this mindset of, well, I'm the best at what I do. I want my customers to get the best, and I know that I can deliver the best. And if I hire employees, it's not going to be as good as what I can do. And it's kind of laughable for me. Not that I'm laughing at them, but it's because I start to envision this bracket, like the NCAA. I start getting this bracket, and I'm going to rank 64 people. Well, you said you're the best at this. Nobody can do it as good as you. And I've heard that 64 times. So I'm going to take all 64 of you, and I'm going to rank you, and I'm going to do March Madness, and I'm going to see who actually is the best, because that's just, it's not realistic, but it's funny because it is madness, because we think that we can't teach somebody else how to do the thing. And that in and of itself is a big self-limiting belief, because you yourself didn't know how to do it at some point. And you went through it and learned how to do it. And then you became really good at it, maybe because you're wired in a way that you have really good attention to detail. But you can find people who also have good attention to detail, and then teach them and then show them, and then they can go out and do that. And then you can grow the business. So it's laughable for that reason, because I start to picture my March Madness bracket and thinking about all these people that tell me they're the best. And then I want to go out there and find out who's the Baylor of 2021. Right. And
I think the biggest thing is that we as the business owner technicians, we get in this mindset of, yes, the customer only wants the absolute best quality service, as in the quality of the actual work. But in reality, our customers want the best customer experience. So if you don't focus on that, actually getting 100% of the job perfectly done correctly, and just give them an awesome experience, answering the phone every time, doing what you're saying you're going to do, show up on time, look professional, follow up with them after the job, make sure that they were satisfied. Those little things are what's actually going to grow your customer base. Even if the quality of your work is 90% perfectly done, you know what I mean? It's really about the experience more so than the quality in the end.
I want to pull out something else that you said, and I feel like this is a common anxiety that other people are going to have. And I remember having it myself. And even at different levels of the business, I sometimes can hear it coming to the door, and I push it away, but like the guilt of once you come off the truck and you have other people on the truck doing the thing for you, and they see you, right, and and maybe the jeans or the slacks and the polo, and that your calendar is full to the brim. Like you're going to have a really busy day, but you're not wearing the uniform going out in the field anymore. Now you're wearing, the business development or the sales uniform or the whatever, right? The Chamber of Commerce event that you need to go to. Now, now, and we know that when you go and do that kind of work, that's what leads to opportunities that end up becoming, the $30,000 job, which can be this whole sales goal for a company in 1 month. And it all came from your networking or business development, right? But I remember that guilt when you watched your truck roll out for the first time and you weren't on it doing the thing. What do you think that's about? How did you get over it? Do you think it has anything to do with the 5 people you surround yourself with, or is it just a self-limiting belief? Talk to us about that.
Yeah. It's, for me, it was really, really tough. I remember one of the new guys I had hired on after making that big jump and sending them off to do work on their own. One of the new guys actually asked me, because I was getting them ready for the day, helping them get the truck loaded up and chemicals loaded. And he looked at me in my khakis and polo and said, "Well, what are you going to do today?" and I did. I had a B&I meeting to go to, and I had quotes to do, but and that's when I realized I just need to start communicating, let them know about what I was accomplishing during the day. But that's when the guilt really kind of hit me in the gut, like, oh my gosh, I need to be out there waving the wand around.
They called you out.
Yeah, called me out. But no, you're exactly right. I mean, it's taking that step out of the field, getting over that guilt, and just working your butt off still. I mean, I really, besides that one little moment where the new guy questioned me, I've never for once worried that my guys thought that I wasn't working my tail off. I mean, they see me accomplishing connections, networking things that have led to, like you said, huge jobs, commercial projects that keep the ball rolling. So I would say to that end, just work your tail off and show your guys the results of your hard work that may not be in the field.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you have to, quote unquote, take the punch with that guy that one of your guys threw at you. But it also comes back to you as the leader need to communicate, and I'm not speaking to you, Josh, but just in general here, you got to communicate to your team what you're doing. And I think that that's where, like, we as leaders have to cast vision to our team. So anybody listening to this, like, man, I don't want to hear that from one of my guys. Well, you don't have to if you've cast vision and you regularly have meetings with your team and huddle ups maybe in the morning or something, and you're just talking to them as a leader, like, all right, here's what we got this week. On this day, I'm going to be off the truck. I'm going to be going to these events, try and drum up some business for us for future growth. And what you'll have is, if you keep your team in the know and you keep transparency and you keep communication, then they'll start to actually become your cheerleader. Like, yeah, boss, we got this. You go do X, Y, Z, because we know that that's going to give us more work and keep us busy and help us keep growing. Because your team members, when you get a full-time team member, they don't want to work at a dead-end job, right? They're going to start having visions of oh, I can see myself doing this in the company. Well, they need you as the leader to go create a company that can allow for things like that to happen. And that's where, if you communicate with your team and you're transparent with them, I think that it's easier for you not to get that anxiety or get that punch in the gut, right? Um, Now, that being said, I made the same mistake. I know this now because I didn't do those things. And I had similar comments like the one that you got, except that, my business, I was still a full-time firefighter. So some of my buddies that were working with me were firefighters, and they're like, oh, there he goes, not on the truck today, going to do, nerd stuff, and so you were always catching it two ways. But yeah, so I think that anybody listening to this, a pitfall you can avoid is by communicating and being transparent. You'll actually get your team to want you to get off the truck because they know that you'll be able to go and grow the business that way. So thanks for sharing that, Josh. Okay, I got another question for you. Let's go back to that size of the business. And, you've got a sales goal of, let's say $20,000 for the month, right? And to this point, a lot of your business has come from maybe your own personal network. People know you're doing this. They're supporting you because you're going out on your own. But now you need to keep that work steady. Talk to us about some of the things you did in marketing and to drum up business for your company when you were Josh, the solopreneur, and then you were Josh bringing on the first team member, and then you were Josh, you got two team members, you're trying to get yourself off the truck. What were some things that you were doing to drum up business? I heard you mention B&I. Kind of walk us through some of your strategies back then and what was effective.
Sure. Starting to network in the professional realm with other local business owners was huge. So going to the chamber meetings, going to B&I, definitely helped catapult us. Then there was the boots on the ground stuff, the simple stuff that you can be doing. When it comes to worrying about keeping your technicians busy, I know now that that's not really, it shouldn't be a concern, because you can always have them go do marketing days where they just go around and do door hangers, or, give them the goal of, I need you to put out 20 yard signs today. Doing those easy things really helps keep the ball rolling and keep the momentum going. Then also, I would say early on, one of my main focuses, because I had a background in graphic design, like marketing and the way we looked was always super important to me. So investing the money early on into getting the trucks wrapped and getting professional looking uniforms, getting our marketing materials all looking the same and professional looking. I remember very early on, you remember the van that I owned, Bennett, whenever I first started, my grandpa's van?
Yes, sir.
It just had some not real expensive wrap or graphics going on, but early on, within like year 1 or 2, I had people asking me if we were a national franchise, just because of the look that we always tried to portray. And so that stood out to people, I think, as far as a pressure washing or painting company that looked really, really professional. I think that's what helped gain some momentum as well.
When people see a company show up in a marked vehicle, in how extreme you go with that, is up to you. We fully wrap our trucks. We put logos all over it. I've always bought into that from day one, because I believe that it puts the customer at ease when they see you showing up with a marked professional vehicle, because now they just have an expectation that, okay, this isn't the creepy white van with, no logos on it showing up to do the job. It's a reputable professional company, and they don't even know anything about you, because we do as humans tend to judge a book by its cover to some degree. And if we're hiring a services company and we see that book showing up and it's a white van that's got rusted wheels and there's no logos on it, it immediately just sets a different impression than the one when you show up with a clean truck that has a logo on it and a phone number and a website or whatever, because then they know that they've got, okay, well, this is at least a professional company that if something goes wrong, I can call somebody and they're going to do something about it. Right. Yeah. And one of the things I've told a buddy of mine that owns an exterior cleaning business was that, hey, oh man, you got an exterior cleaning company and your truck is filthy, but you're an exterior cleaning company. Is that including cleaning the exterior of your own truck? And I was just giving him crap, right? But like the impression that you make, people are analytical like that. They do think about those things. So I would say easy wins like are the ones that you just described. Like give yourself the appearance that, hey, wow, are you guys a national franchise? Not that you need to be a national franchise, but if you people say that because you look professional, and so that's definitely an easy win. And you were doing that right out the gate.
And I would say to that end too, like some smaller guys that are just starting out, they may not have a quoting vehicle that they take out to do quotes. They may just have their truck and trailer that they pull for jobs. But if you're going out and doing quotes and say another vehicle, I remember I started out with just a big magnet to put on the vehicle, something that you can put on your vehicle at all times, even if you're just going out to do quotes that look professional and tie into the rest of the brand. Because if you go to do a quote in, again, an unmarked vehicle, you're not going to set the tone for your company. And right away, I think customers are going to, in their mind, have a price set. You know, that they're going to assume that because you don't look like that well-branded company, that you're not going to cost as much. And so I think it just adds instant credibility and value to your business the more professional you look in every aspect.
All right, so back to your marketing. We've got the impression set of your vehicle at that time. You know, what were you doing? Boots on the ground stuff. So on every job you would do this. On every estimate you were putting this out. Like what were some of the low hanging fruit, boots on the ground marketing tactics that you were doing back then that you found to be successful, that you would, if you were talking to somebody today that's in those shoes that you were wearing back then, what would you tell them to do?
5 rounds are super easy to do whenever you're doing a quote and or completing the job itself. Passing out flyers or door hangers to the homes in the surrounding area, because you're going to get a lot of attention whenever you pull up to the home to actually do the work. So the neighbors are probably peering out their windows, checking out your rig anyway. So going ahead and leaving them some marketing material on their front doorstep is going to kind of encourage them and make it easier on them to contact you. And then, you know, just canvassing neighborhoods and handing out those door hangers and putting out lots of yard signs. One mistake I made early on, I remember the first yard signs I purchased. Again, I was designing my own stuff, so it was just like way overdone and way over the top. But I paid for these super nice full color yard signs front and back. And I remember I made the big purchase minute. I got 10 of them, about 10 yard signs. And now I made it. These things are going to bring in the money. So if you're on a limited budget and buying full color yard signs means you can only get 10 to 20 of them, go with single color, something you can really not care about the cost of those signs and get 100 of them and get them out there. To the point where you may be getting some calls about people being upset that you have them in places that they don't necessarily want them. I got a complaint from a nearby town recently. Didn't fine us or anything, but they're like, "Hey, you're putting these signs in the right of ways of the town, and that's against our city ordinance." And I told my guys, "Hey, that's a good sign. We're getting so many signs out that we're getting some complaints. So keep it up." So I think there's the saying out there goes that if you're not upsetting somebody by noon, you're not marketing hard enough. I don't know how that is, but there's some truth to it. You're gonna have to step on those.
Okay, so on that topic, with yard signs, if I was giving advice to a company of that size, south of 100K is their sales goal for the whole year, or south of 200K, I think a piece of low hanging fruit, and I want to get your thoughts on this too, is like if you're already going out and doing estimates in person and you're out there with the customer and it looks like it's gonna land, right? Because like, oh yeah, when can you get started, right? Go ahead and at that point ask the customer for get through oh, we can do it this day, XYZ, right? Get through that piece. But then, hey, by the way, would you be okay if I left a yard sign in your yard until the time between now and when we come out to do the work? And when we come out to do the work, we'll take the yard sign with us. Or if you're okay with it, we can leave it here for another week. And then after a week or two, you can just throw it away. I would give that advice because people are like, yeah, but those cost so much money. And I said, yeah, but if you build it into the price of the ticket, if it's a all in with the stake and the sign, it's $5. You know, you build that into the ticket. I mean, if you can get a customer to let you leave a yard sign in their yard for a week in between the time you do the estimate to the job, or if you're booking the estimate, you're doing the job the next day, that's fine too. At least it's there. And then, you know, rather than giving $5 off to leave the yard sign, like, hey, can I get a discount? I'll give you a discount of $5 if you let me leave the yard sign in there. You know, if you get so scarcity mindset or just like so wrapped up in like, I don't want to pay to replace that sign, you're missing a big opportunity, in my opinion, to, hey, I was here working and I have a type of job where I can actually leave the yard sign here, leave the yard sign there in between the estimate and the job at a minimum. And if you build a rapport with the customer, you do a good job, they might even let you leave it for the week after. And then, you know, the $5 to $6 that thing costs, write it off, build it into the ticket and go buy more, because that's effective marketing. Because then now that neighbor's got a impression of you, they saw the job that you did, looks like you did a good job. If you took the time to do the 5 rounds, now you've left them your information. They saw your yard sign and you left them your information. And then you could come behind that with something like from, you know, SendJim, or maybe you can do something different where you have a neighbor mailing and then a postcard comes a couple weeks later. And so you, boom, there's 3 impressions right there. What would you say to that?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely gold. Getting those yard signs in the yard sooner than later for the longest time period you can. Yard signs definitely sell. They're a great marketing tool. Like you said, the more touches you can get with those neighbors by passing out those flyers and then sending postcards, whatever you can do, the more touches, the better. So yeah, that's great advice.
When you think back on that size, what was the thing you had the most success with? Was it B&I? Was it networking? Was it Chamber of Commerce? Was it your yard signs? Was it your door hangers? What was something that you did that, like, if I had the time and I put my time and energy into doing this always yielded fruit?
I would say it'd be one thing I actually didn't mention earlier, and that's social media for me early on. Constant posting to Facebook of before and after pictures and videos, something that doesn't cost any money if you're not boosting posts, but just constantly putting content out there. We got a lot of attention via Facebook. And then one thing that really kind of catapulted that was after we already had a little bit of a following after the first few years, doing free work in our area. So we did some campaigns where we washed local playgrounds for free, and we kind of got the community involved with the Facebook posting, had people nominate schools, and so that created a lot of engagement with our social media. And once we actually went to do the cleanings, of course, we documented that. Actually got a news crew to come out. A little birdie told the news crew about the cleaning that we would be doing. I was the little birdie. I contacted the news crew and let them know that we'd be out there doing that, and got some awesome PR
hustle.
From that. So, yeah, so I would say social media is an easy one. It's a no-brainer. You got to do it. If you're not on social media, get on it today and start posting content. And then don't be afraid to give away some free work. I think it's paid. Doing free work for the community has paid itself back tenfold, hands down. Just a great way to be seen as a trustworthy company in your community by doing some pro bono work.
I was hoping you'd say that. That's why I kept prodding, because I remember when you were getting started, I mean, your videos and your pictures they were really effective, because the before and afters in exterior cleaning and soft washing. And I would say that this is the case for even like a landscaping company. When you stripe a yard and it looks perfect, right? People want to see that. When you wash a roof and it was dingy and then now it looks like the color of the shingle originally, or the house is green and black on one side and now you've got like people can see the video of it coming clean. Like it's relaxing. Or even the surface cleaner on the concrete, when you would watch that thing go in like a vacuum, suck up the dirty colors. So, I mean, if you have a business like that, where the pictures just look, if you yourself as the owner are looking at something like, wow, that looks really great now, probably want to go ahead and post that on your social media, right? Even if you're an owner and somebody else is doing the work, have your team send you pictures. And if they have really great pictures, post them on your social media. Now, my caution to anybody listening and hearing that advice is Josh did this really well. He did it enough that it was in front of me, but he didn't do it so much that it annoyed me. Now, I'm also his friend, and he probably couldn't have annoyed me, but I'm thinking through the lens of somebody who was in your network. I don't think you were posting so much that you were annoying people. I think that you were just doing it just enough to stay top of mind. And so I would give that advice to anybody listening is, you may not do it twice a day, every day. You might want to find a cadence that makes sense where you're staying top of mind and you're showing off the professionalism of your work, which I thought you did really well. And I would say that if you're not doing this and you've got 300 to 500 friends on Facebook, right? And you're sitting there spending time, touting your political views instead of like putting a picture up of your before and after, like, recheck your priorities there. If you're an owner and you're spending more time commenting on the views of the day, and as a business owner, you're trying to grow your company and you're not putting any of your work up there, you're missing a big opportunity. One thing you did too was really effective, I thought, was and I want you to pull on this thread, was some of the free services you did. I love the thing. I actually still reference this today. You did something with a local hardware store, which I thought was just brilliant. You worked with them, you gave them some love on social media, and you worked with them. I think you maybe even bought the leaf blower, but they gave you like a free leaf blower giveaway or something. You did that. And you said to win it, you had to like, share, or comment or something. And you had like a boatload of shares out of that post. It was really effective.
Yeah, it was after the playground thing got so much traction, and I don't know, we just gained a lot of followers from it. And so there's a local company that sells mowers and weed eaters and blowers, and do a lot of business with them. And they actually donated a leaf blower to be kind of given away via a social media post. And we just kind of randomly picked from all the people that, like you said, liked, shared, and commented on the post. And so yeah, it kind of added some value, or I guess our post had so much value that another company saw it and wanted to get in on it. So yeah, that was pretty neat.
That's clever. Okay, I'm going to shift gears now. I'm going to be sensitive to time, but we talked about hiring. When you decided to make your first hire, what were some of the things that triggered you to like, okay, now it's time, I got to get somebody? What size were you? How much revenue were you doing like a week? Or how many jobs were you doing a week where you were like, okay, I'm starting to feel like I'm burning the candle at both ends. I'm trying to wear all the hats. I'm doing all the jobs. I've got to get some help. Yeah. What was the first time that you realized you needed a full-time person and you felt comfortable moving forward?
I think it was probably in the like mid 100K, like around 150 or something, where I finally decided that I had to get somebody else in there. And I was just at the point of spreading myself super thin. I mean, just overdoing it, trying to do literally all the work and wear all the hats marketing wise, doing the quotes. I guess whenever I found myself spending so much more time away from home, I'd go and do the work during the day, and then all of my evenings would be eaten up by doing quotes. And then on the weekends, Saturdays, sometimes Sundays, I'd be out running and doing quotes, and got to the point where it was just really, really frustrating and affecting my home life. And I knew I had to bring someone else on. Once it started to become more of a burden and less fun, less exciting, then I knew I had to kind of take some things off of my plate and bring someone else on to start helping out. And that was a slow process. I mean, it was tough. I mean, as far as like I said earlier, relinquishing the reins and letting someone else go out and start handling that work. It was tough, but yeah, once it started affecting home life, that's when I knew it was time.
Was there a certain amount of money that you had saved that like, okay, well now I can do it because I have this much money saved? Or was it that I'm hitting this net profit percentage on sales, and I was like, okay, now that I'm hitting this net profit, I know I'm going to have this much money on this much in sales. Now I feel like I can go take the risk of hiring somebody. Because like, to me, when I think about giving that advice today, and other people have said this as well, it's like good team members, they shouldn't cost you money. They should help make you more money in the business. Not like you personally taking it home and putting it in your bank account. They should help you as a company grow sales. But I think an obstacle a lot of, firepreneurs, entrepreneurs are going to have is we're like, yeah, but right now I do it all myself and I just have a helper and I know that I'm going to make this much money. The idea of hiring somebody is scary because now I know that I have to pay that person X. You know, was that something that helped you get over it, or is there something else non-related to money that helped you finally get over it?
You know me pretty well. Know that I don't know my numbers best. So first of all, if there are other small business owners out there that don't know your numbers really well, know that it's okay. You can still survive, even though you should. But no, for me, I think it was more so just the fact that we were getting booked out so far, and I was having to tell customers, we can get to you, but it's going to be 3-4 weeks. Then you start hearing them say, oh, okay, well, I might need to find someone else. Once I saw that we were going to be losing business to the fact that our capacity was so low, then it was a no-brainer. I knew I had the work, so that part didn't really scare me so much. And I knew that if I stepped out of the field some and got some help, then I could keep that momentum going as far as bringing on more jobs too. So I think that was it. Mostly just didn't want to start losing customers due to being booked out so far.
All right. So I remember when you did bring somebody on, you finally got your first helper, but you weren't really off the truck yet because you were still the madman out there with the wand. I remember high speed. Like if you want to watch somebody work on a job site, work with Josh Judge. But I remember asking, it's like, hey, how often do you let that helper use the wand, or is that just that's just you using the wand every time? Like, well, he does every now and then. I was like, yeah, okay. Maybe you let him use the wand a little bit. What do you think? And he's like, yeah. But like there was a period of time when you had your first helper where it was kind of uncomfortable letting him run and you be there to just watch and teach, right? What was that about? Because I think that is also a common thing that people go through is they don't want to hand that off. How long did it take you, and could you have done it sooner? Would you have done it sooner, or was it the right amount of time before you actually started letting him lead the job site where you kind of stepped back, and then the next step being like bringing a helper for him? Go through that stage for us.
Yeah, it was not the right amount of time. I held on to the wand for way too long. So yeah, whenever his name was Corey, and he was with me for I think 2 years at this point, and that second year was whenever we were going more towards strictly cleaning. And yeah, I had a helper, but I would always be the one with my hand on the wand. He was there to help me unload the equipment, pull hoses around. But no, I wasted probably a full season of still trying to be that man in charge. So if I could go back and do it all over again, I definitely would step back and do more teaching. But I remember asking him at the end of that whole season, when it kind of dawned on me, I think you and I had some conversations, and I probably had my first run-in with the E-Myth, and I asked him, how often do you think I let you actually run the wand all last year? I was like, maybe 10, 12% of the time. He's like, oh, yeah, that's probably about right. And I was just like, oh gosh, what are you doing? So yeah, even though I had my first helper, I still was just holding on to those reins for as long as I could, because I was the fastest one that could run that wand, and I was so detail oriented. I mean, there's no way I could let someone else take it and do it better than I could. So looking back, it was pretty silly, and would definitely start sooner.
I think it's definitely common, so don't beat yourself up. And when I say Josh wasted time, let's just make it clear. Josh does not waste time on a job site. I've seen this guy work. He's an animal. He's a beast. But yes, I mean, in terms of like letting somebody else, we call it I think Brandon Vaughn first said this, and I loved it when I heard it, which is teach, show, watch. So like if you're running a solopreneur and you're bringing on your first person, the minute you bring somebody on, like you've reached somebody. You hired them. They believed in you at some point to like, yeah, I'll come work for you. Well, now you've reached them. Now you need to teach them. And that's the thing that I tell people now is if you bring somebody on, be prepared to every day you're with them, teach them. And then you'll build some comfortability with that person. You'll build some confidence with that person. And then you're like, now you get to teach them by like, okay, this week, I'm going to give you some wand time and you're going to run the job and I'm going to be there to kind of help you and let you turn the dials right. And then little by little, you can start to step back. I think the sooner that you can do that and know that whoever that person is not going to do it as well as you in the beginning, but you can get them to that level. This is a common pitfall for solopreneurs, firepreneurs is like, I don't want to let go. But I remember that you eventually did. And that's when, man, you started giving Corey at that time more ability to do the jobs. And then you got another helper. And then I remember you called me on the first day that you were actually off the truck and they were out doing jobs. And man, from there, your graph went up because you just started getting more time. And now you're at the 3 to 4 truck range and running 2 to 3 every day. And it's been a fun journey to watch for me. But now walk us through, you've got the 2 people. What were some obstacles that you encountered? Because that's going to be another thing that people are going to hear. Well, I gave this person this time to do the jobs. I trained them, I showed them, and now I've got 2 people out there and they screwed this job up real bad. The customer's upset and it's just miserable. Like, and employees, they just make it worse. They're never going to do it as good as you. And all they're going to do is create more work for you because now you got to go back and do the job again. And then you got to pay the money back to the customer. Like, I think everybody's also gone through some moments like that. Did that slow you down or were you able to overcome those?
Yeah, no, I don't remember it ever slowing us down. We definitely ran into some issues where they missed a spot or they, maybe used too much pressure on the wood deck here at this point. And we just, every time it happened, like I mentioned earlier, that we just met it head on. We would call the customer and they would mention something that we missed or didn't do quite right or that they weren't completely satisfied, and we just make it right. And it didn't happen. I don't think it happens near as much as people are afraid it will. If you've done your due diligence and trained your guys properly, those mistakes aren't going to happen every single day like you kind of fear that they will. But yeah, I think whenever small things came up, we just met them head on and fixed it and made sure that the customer was satisfied. And we've still got those customers today. I've got a lot of customers that the first time around we messed up and did something wrong or, burnt a plant accidentally or something like that. And we brought in a local landscaper to fix it professionally, and they still use us today and still refer us to their neighbors. And so I think that's the biggest thing is to, one, know that mistakes are going to happen, be okay with it, and just make sure you just fix it, make it right.
What would be the biggest piece of advice you would give to Josh Judge in year 1-2 timeframe? If hungry, ambitious, wanting to build a business, what would you say to that person today? Because it's not literally you, but there's another you out there, someone with your drive, your ambition, and they're in that size of a business right now, and all they see is, I want this, but there's obstacles. Like, what advice would you give to yourself or somebody like you today?
Oh man, I had so much self-limiting beliefs back then about myself, what I could do with the service area that we had, how much we could actually grow. And the biggest thing would be to let go of the reins sooner, for sure. I mean, just think bigger and not have so much doubt about what we're capable of accomplishing.
So, Judge Services today, what is a challenge that you face as an owner today with your business, or what's a big goal that you have that you're hunting down? Walk us through some thoughts that Josh Judge goes through today with the business.
I think I was talking with somebody the other day. I think this point that we're at now is where a lot of business owners probably turn the bus around as far as having employees and having multiple trucks and that because once you get to this point of having 6-7 employees, you start to deal with like a lot of different personalities, a lot of different schedules, a lot of different home lives and backgrounds, and that becomes a little bit of a struggle. So I would say the biggest challenge is for me, while I juggle everything else on the back end of the business, also staying in tune with the employees and keeping in touch with them and communicating well with them. That's one thing I still struggle with, and I know I need to get better at. So I would say that's the biggest struggle at this point. As far as what we're looking for in the near future, we're looking to expand in some services. So like I said, we're adding on window cleaning, and we're looking to expand the Christmas light section of our business. And I've got some other ideas. I don't want to put out just yet, but I see some expansion as far as judge services and what we can offer as a whole in the upcoming year or two. So I'm excited for that.
So even though you're facing one of those, that mountain to climb or that hill to climb, this mountain sounds like you're coming into being a leader, manager. Now you've got multiple people, multiple personalities, and it's creating challenges. It's creating new obstacles. But what I'm hearing you say is that you're going to overcome them. You're going to figure them out. And not only that, but you're still looking forward at where you're going to grow the company to. So even though some people do turn the bus around here, that's not judge services.
Oh yeah, no, we're powering forward. Nothing is ever as bad or as good as it seems in the moment. So even though we face some of those minor challenges and they feel really heavy, they're just speed bumps. So I know we can power through. Looking forward to it.
Boom! Clip it up, Molson. Bag that one up. Yeah, that's the truth, man. I mean, that's really well said, and I think that I appreciate you sharing that, because I feel like most business owners, there's always going to be obstacles. And I say this on the podcast regularly. It's just they're different obstacles based on what you're encountering in the moment. What size business you are, how many employees you have, how many trucks you have, what your service areas are. There's always going to be new obstacles. It's just if you can develop the mindset that you're always going to overcome them. Like, wow, okay, well, this is a first. All right, well, don't know what to do yet, but I'm going to go figure it out, and we're going to get past it and move on. If you can get your mind callous to think that way, all the obstacles are overcomeable, so to speak. But I think that anybody listening who may not be able to relate to the first part of the episode, maybe when they hear that, they're facing some obstacle in their company. Just like at my company, we're facing obstacles. Everybody's going to face obstacles, no matter what size company it is. It's just how you choose to overcome them, and if you choose to overcome them. So somebody listening to what Josh just said, Josh, what's something that in your journey as an entrepreneur helped you develop that mindset where you weren't going to turn the bus around? You were going to figure out how to overcome. Is there like a routine, a habit, or is there a thought process you go through? Like, what helps you face the mountain, so to speak?
I'd say there's definitely been some inspirational books or mentors that I look to. There's always the David Goggins mindset.
Goggins.
Power through, callous the mind. But then I would also say looking and following in the footsteps of other industry leaders, people that I respect in the trades, seeing what they've been through, listening to their stories, like Brandon Vaughn, what he went through in his early days, makes some of the obstacles that I may come across seem pretty small, and see the big picture. So I mean, rewinding a little bit to what we were just talking about, there are literally days, and I'm not exaggerating, many days where I have looked at my trucks and looked at all my equipment and think, all right, what can I get for this stuff right now? Because I'm done. Like, this day is not going good. I can't do this anymore. But the other saying I said about how nothing is as bad or as good as it seems in the moment, that passes. And I think that a lot of times contractors or business owners probably get to that point and they're like, they want to get rid of that stress. And so they back away from it. They go ahead and sell off their equipment. But yeah, you just stick it out and power through it.
Or just go to sleep, right? Like get through the day, get a sleep under your belt, see if you still feel that way the next day, because oftentimes you don't, right? It's a passing moment. Thanks for sharing that, because I think that's I don't know if I've said it on the podcast or not, but I think we've all had moments where we've looked at a blank wall, right? I've had moments where I've been on the floor, laying down, looking at a blank wall, like, hey, are the answers somewhere in that paint? Because I need some answers right now. And then they don't come. But you wake up the next day and then you're ready to go back after it, So well said, buddy. Okay, my man. Well, we're going to tie a bow on it for today. If somebody wanted to reach out to you and just, for some mentorship or just some, to share some feedback or just kind of like check in with you, how would somebody get a hold of you? And then how would you prefer that they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you find me on Facebook, I would say, or visit our website, or feel free to email me at judgeservices@hotmail.com. But I'd be happy to anybody that's kind of going through those beginning stages and has got any questions to bounce around. I'll be happy to talk shop with anybody.
You already dropped one good nugget. I'm going to end you with one last question. You got a billboard, which I know Judge Services has a billboard in Carbondale. But if you have a billboard that anybody could see with a piece of wisdom, advice, guidance, whatever it might say, what would it say?
What would it say? I would say, think bigger.
All right, my man. Well, thanks for joining the podcast. I will talk to you soon. And everybody else, thank you for listening.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for joining Firepreneurs today. We hope that we delivered value in your leadership journey. We humbly ask that you take the time to leave us a 5-star review, as that's how our podcast will rise in rankings and become available to more people. We'd love to hear from you, so you can email us by emailing firepreneurs@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or by watching us on our Firepreneurs YouTube channel. Stay hungry and get after it.